On a full moon night, the sky shimmered with countless stars, casting a magical glow over everything. A group of brave knights stood together, ready for something big. Their shiny armor sparkled in the moonlight. Suddenly, a strong voice broke the silence. The main knight gave a powerful speech urging everyone to fight against the figure they believed was a demon. This so-called demon, filled with determination, ran fast toward the group of knights. He got closer to the leader, who was giving orders. With one powerful swing, the demon's sword ended the leader's life. The demon didn't hesitate. He stood among the fallen knights and used a strong power by touching the ground. Purple fire quickly spread, and the knights lost their lives. Tired and overwhelmed, the demon dropped to his knees, breathing heavily. He felt something coming closer. He looked and saw a girl knight with fiery red hair walking toward him. She looked upset as she faced him. She called him Nox von Reinhardt and demanded to know why he made a pact with the devil and turned against them. Nox, still catching his breath, looked ahead and disagreed with her. He smiled a bit and said they might see it as him betraying them, but he believed they were the ones who betrayed him first. The girl knight was really frustrated. She asked Nox to stop arguing and just tell her when he became so broken. Nox began explaining his story. It all started when he crashed into this world. Suddenly a message appeared on a screen in front of Yu-chan, the person controlling Nox. The message said he finished the first part of a game called Inner Lunatic 27 times. Yu-chan felt happy about his achievements, getting cool stuff and completing hidden tasks. But there was something sad in the background. He found out he would die next month. Thinking about the past, Yu-chan remembered going to hospitals 2 years ago. He was trying to find out what was wrong with him. Doctors told him to stay calm, but the news was bad. Even after many tests, they had the same answer. He didn't have much time. They gave him medicine for pain, telling him to use it when it hurt a lot. In his room, Yu-chan realized that 2 years had passed. He looked at the calendar and got really sick. He threw up blood. Seeing his red hands, he understood that he wouldn't live for long. Yu-chan knew that no matter how much he thought about it, he couldn't change what was going to happen. Feeling all alone and cut off from others, Yu-chan heard notifications. He saw they were from hospitals confirming appointments. He felt really lonely. After losing his memory, no one reached out to him, and he couldn't reach out to anyone either. His health was bad, so he couldn't even go outside. This made him even lonelier. Glancing at the papers on his desk, he saw a bunch of different stuff, like papers about helping people with late-stage cancer, flyers for events at a church, and info about hospices for the terminally ill. Lots of emotions started bubbling up inside him, so Yu-chan tossed the papers aside, and he couldn't stop a few tears from rolling down his cheeks. Shifting his attention to the computer screen in front of him, Yu-chan noticed a game called Lunar Lunatic was asking him if he wanted to start a new game. He didn't have much else going on, so he thought, why not? He typed in the name Carl for his player. Yu-chan's mind started to work as he thought about what kind of character he should create for the game. He pondered his options, thinking about being really smart with magic or being a pro at fighting with swords. But then, a warning popped up on the screen. It told him that if he picked too many super cool traits, there would be some problems. He saw something interesting though, an option that said, terminally ill. Yu-chan chuckled a bit at the idea that he and his character both had that in common. Even though he was sick in real life, he decided to give his character the same trait in the game. He shrugged off the warning and clicked to start the game with his new character. All of a sudden, a strange feeling washed over Yu-chan, and he tumbled out of his chair. Fear gripped him as he wondered if this was what dying felt like. But then, on the screen, a message popped up saying that the character creation was done. Yu-chan realized that if he had to go, he'd at least want to go on his own terms. Just as he was thinking that, another message came up, saying that his character's name had been changed without his say-so. That was weird. Then, something even stranger happened. A progress bar appeared on the screen, starting at 4% and slowly creeping up. 6%, 19%, and then it stopped at 71%. Right after that, a new message popped up, saying the character was all set. Yu-chan blinked, feeling like he was in some kind of crazy dream. When he woke up, he was somewhere completely different. He looked around in disbelief, trying to figure out if this was real or if he was imagining things. To find some answers, he walked up to a mirror and stared at his reflection. And that's when it hit him. He had turned into Nox von Reinhardt, the bad character from the game. Nox was the odd one out in his powerful family, not having the cool magical and fighting skills his siblings did. He got really bitter about it and ended up making a deal with the devil, which turned him into a supervillain in the game's story. Looking at himself now as Nox, Yu-chan felt like he was in some kind of wild fantasy. But just as he was getting used to the idea, Something new popped up on the screen, a bunch of stats about his character. He learned that he was Nox von Reinhardt, a 14-year-old human who could control darkness. But when he looked at the actual numbers, his excitement turned into disappointment. With disappointment, he questioned the low value of only 2 points in stamina. Nox's attention then turned to his traits. He discovered a neutral trait called Void Revelation, which piqued his curiosity. However, his spirits sank as he read through his negative traits. Terminally ill, curse of the weak, frequent sickness, cold hands and feet, and possession. The realization that he was terminally ill in both his real life and this new world left him disheartened. The system also displayed that he had only 1 year of lifespan remaining. Nox reflected on his past actions, trying to make sense of why he had chosen to create a character with a terminal illness, someone who faced imminent death and had no support. Upon further contemplation, he began to understand his underlying motivation. He wanted a character that mirrored his own experiences, someone who could empathize with his struggles. Little did he know that he would eventually become that character himself. Suddenly a notification appeared indicating an unread mail in his mailbox. Nox's curiosity compelled him to investigate its contents. The mail began with a greeting, addressing him as Yu-chan, his previous name, but then it corrected itself, saying that it should call him with his new name Nox now. Nox was surprised and questioned how the system knew his name. Yu-chan was a name given to him by his parents, whose whereabouts he was unaware of. Nox couldn't help but question if the entity that put him here held the key to unlocking his lost memories. The system acknowledged that Nox wouldn't remember them, but conveyed the need to deliver a message. It greeted him with a nostalgic, long time no see, leaving Nox astounded. The system went on to acknowledge Nox's achievements over the past 2 years, affirming that he deserved to be where he was now. It offered a warm welcome back, leaving Nox in a state of disbelief. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day. What is the coolest magic ability to have? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out. Now back to the recap. Nox couldn't believe what he was hearing. The idea that he was no longer in his old world, and that this new reality was his new existence, seemed impossible to accept. The system responded, acknowledging that there were many aspects of its identity it couldn't disclose, but it expressed a desire to assist Nox. Nox questioned the notion of help. Before he could fully comprehend the situation, the system suggested that he join the Eldian Academy, where he could strengthen his forces and strive to follow the main story as closely as possible. According to the system, the complete truth would naturally unfold. As the system mail started to disappear, Nox exclaimed in surprise and asked if that was it. In a state of worry, he tried to gather his thoughts. He realized that he had been reborn as the final boss of the game, Inner Lunatic, but now he was being told to follow the main story. Regardless of how he interpreted it, this simply meant that eventually he would meet his demise. Nox's thoughts raced as he contemplated his situation. Even if Inner Lunatic had become his new reality, he refused to give up on regaining his memories. He was determined to find out the main story of his life and why he existed in this world, while also making sure he stayed alive. He was ready to take on the role of a true villain. Looking back on his past, Nox realized not much had changed. A couple of years before he lost his memories, he had a serious illness. Each day reminded him that he might die soon, and fear had taken over. The only difference now was that he was in a world he recognized. Curious, Nox wanted to know the date. The system showed February 4th, 1812, making him feel rushed. Time was running out, and he needed to act fast. Determined, he decided to try again for the 28th time. When he tried to open the door, his wrist hurt a lot and turned red. A message popped up saying a negative trait had activated. It said his constant illness had given him wrist inflammation level 1 and told him to rest. Nox couldn't believe it and muttered, "What?" As he walked down the hallway, he held his hand tightly, worried about his body. He felt so fragile. Then a maid bumped into him, dropping dishes. The maid recognized him and called him young Master Nox. Nox looked at her and remembered her Rona. She used to talk badly about him. Could she really be the same person who had gossiped about him? Nox forgave her, but warned her not to mess up again. He smiled evilly, thinking about the consequences if she did. Rona understood and nodded, tears in her eyes. The butler and maids looked surprised, but didn't say anything. Nox wondered about the life he had led. Rona asked where he was going. Nox said he was going to the practice hall. Everyone was shocked. He asked Rona to come along, making her nervous. They walked together. Nox knew he needed to survive. He had felt how scary death was and was determined to avoid it. He knew he had to adjust to this new world quickly. Lost in thought, he realized he still had a chance. What will happen next? Find out next time by staying tuned for our future recaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great recaps.